go live right now, I can like refresh it and it should work, or we can just like
I
use
just
the
went I
recording.
just went live on my end.
You went live on your end. Is it
Yeah.
working?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, when you
Okay.
stopped me, that's what came up. Now we're good.
You sure? Okay.
Wait,
Can
so
we
you're
Positive.
just
live
like
on SNN Live?
yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to check that it is before we go much further. Because I can send you the stuff afterwards and we can upload it, but
No, we're good to
maybe.
go. We're good to go.
Okay. Well, that's good. So if we're live now, excellent. People who may have missed the preamble, but that wasn't important. We were just talking rubbish and getting warmed up.
Yeah, definitely. So, guys, yes, welcome to SNN Live's first, it's actually technically second episode where we're gonna. My name's Bill Steele. We got Omar Sharif and Ma Sharif joining us as well. Josh Hamilton from the Gist, and we got Matthew also from the Gist. He is a crypto editor. Matthew English, Josh Hamilton. Welcome everybody. Matthew, you kind of specialize in writing about cryptocurrencies, and you're pretty well informed on these things. I think
Hmm.
again we kind of went into it a little bit earlier on
Yeah.
what Lightning is and what adding a kind of a second layer to Bitcoin does in regards to the discussion that was had today on the I believe it's a platform called the BWord, which is like an organization or something. It's an organization, correct, guys?
Yeah, it's like I think it's like based on educating people and institutions on Bitcoin and crypto in general.
Yep. And so today, Elon Musk, Jack Dorsey, Cathie Wood were all hosted onto one kind of public debate where they discussed Bitcoin, its past, the current system of the global financial kind of playing field, and what role crypto might have moving forward into the future, and more particularly all on Bitcoin. So without further ado, Matthew, please enlighten us a little bit more on what Lightning is in regards to Bitcoin and how that affects transactions and kind of what that means moving forward for people that might not have ever heard of it before.
Yeah, so in the BWord event, they kind of touched on it. So they did about, I think what they were getting at is El Salvador. Like they use quite a lot of Lightning technology on that there. So yeah, the base chain of Bitcoin is, like, as we all know, not very scalable. Transaction fees, whenever there's a lot of interest in Bitcoin, kind of skyrocket, so they do, making it less viable to be used as a payment source, I guess. And the way Lightning aims to fix this is by off-chain scaling. So they use a thing called payment channels, where you open a payment channel that you incur a transaction fee in the main chain for doing that, but you deposit, say, for instance, 1 Bitcoin to the payment channel. Both, like, if I was setting one up with Josh, we would both deposit 1 Bitcoin and a multi-signature address, which means both of us need to sign that address to transfer money to and from each other. Um, the benefit of this is if Josh also has a payment channel with you, for instance, William, like I could send money from me to Josh, from Josh to you, and yeah, you can receive the money like that there. And transaction fees on this Lightning network are very minimal compared to the base chain on Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. And
Mm.
I would say that prompts something really fundamental that maybe some people aren't even aware of. I know probably a lot of our viewers are, but all transactions cost money. I think a lot of people, when they swipe
Yeah.
cards, they forget that banks make money on transactions, that there's a bunch of backing in terms of electrical systems and infrastructure that has to be in place in order for these exchanges of value to be had. So reducing transaction fees to be competitive with current centralized systems is very important for something like a big emerging crypto like Bitcoin.
I mean, the way I like to think of the Lightning Network is like the Lightning as like instant payments with near zero fees, and like Bitcoin, like you can think of Bitcoin as the court that you go to like whenever there's a dispute to ensure like security, fairness, and immutability.
Mm. Yeah, there was a lot of talk actually there towards the end of the B word talk where they were talking about how Bitcoin can be used as both a store of value and as a payment form with the Lightning Network technology. And I find it, yeah, it's super interesting in the way, like we mentioned this before we were actually live, that Elon has a lot of experience in this because of PayPal, because what he was building with X.com and what he was then like trying to build with PayPal was essentially what the Lightning Network is to Bitcoin, in terms of what like payments on the internet is to like the general financial system. And like something that they, yeah, and like something they brought up actually, that Jack Dorsey actually brought up was that we have an opportunity here to replace the foundations of the system. That like credit card and debit card technology is like so irrelevant almost to the modern world in the way it functions. Like the swiping of your card or like sign in for things. Like, can you even imagine that in today's world? And that wasn't that long ago when that was a thing.
Yeah, technology is advancing so quickly, so it is.
I think Elon Musk said it the best. He's like, handing your credit card is like handing your username and password to a waiter in a restaurant. That is hilarious.
Oh, that is brilliant. And definitely something they brought up as well was that Bitcoin is solving the problem of centralization. But the issue with the Lightning Network, and this is something actually, Matthew, that you brought up to me, and I know you've written about it on the Gist, and I know the SNN have got a video coming up that touches on this as well, that there is like a centralization problem with the Lightning Network. So the way it works is that as the nodes tend to cluster together more than it seems on like just the base layer Bitcoin network, and that sort of defeats the point of the decentralization of the currency. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah. Yeah, like basically like you're kind of on the Lightning Network as it stands at the minute. You're kind of incentivized to like have as many connections as you can, which like increases the centralization of that. But yeah, I think developers are kind of working out ways around this and like figuring out how to fix it. But yeah,
It'd be funny.
It is a problem.
I kind of imagine like the Godfather of the Lightning Network to be like the one. He's like plugged into all these cords
Everybody.
and just has like he's got like a connection to everyone on the system. It's like Neo in the Matrix, but it like meets the AI baby thing. If they were like one human, one organism, that would be like the person that rules the Lightning Network.
Yeah, well, the issue that like people have kind of brought up around like this centralization, like it might not seem that bad, but then like you got to think about if someone wants to attack this network, that's the central point of attack. So yeah, it's really about trying to keep it as decentralized as possible, so no one has too much power and there's not just one point of failure.
It also kind of takes away from the actual point that cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is meant to get past, is the centralization of money around like one institution. The whole point of it is that it cannot be taken down by attacking one institution. And if you're allowing that to be sort of countered by the next network or the next like layer that you're putting on top of it, it's sort of defeating the purpose of like the decentralization.
It seems to me like we can't escape the nature of wanting to like congregate together and have a bottleneck of some kind of authority. Even in the digital aspect, we're adding the second layer and we're still running into the same situations. It's almost like as if you would have different clans, right? If you had like clusters of nodes, and these individuals kind of just control and have the autonomy to kind of dictate the vulnerability of the system.
It's like the what is it, the thing that the people always, mathematicians talk about, the Pareto distribution, where where the very, very like tiniest number of like the most successful of anything or the most like significant of anything becomes the thing that is looked at or used by the most number of people. So like the most number of like the tiniest number of artists get like 90% of the views or the listens, or like the tiniest number of people end up with 90% of the wealth.
Of the
And
wealth.
it's,
Yep. Yep.
but you see it all over nature, and it kind of suggests that like we're fighting against natural forces, but it's still
Yeah.
exciting to watch people try and like defeat this. Like you said, Matthew, that developers are working on this and trying to figure out ways to get around this, and it's brilliant to be in the mix, like right at the crossroads of people trying to use technology to defeat the problems that nature has provided us with.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what one segue I wanted to get into is Matthew. I actually, what do you guys think the long-term impacts of having like a serious Starlink network available to the global community could be long-term on cryptocurrencies being adopted seriously as like the main form for value exchange?
Yeah, so like whenever I was doing an article on Cardano Africa, one of the things that came up was that how much of the world's population actually don't have internet access. So it was quite surprising to find out that it's like almost half, I think, don't have internet access, and then yeah, an even larger population is unbanked. So yeah, it gives people the opportunity, like in countries like Africa where banks aren't readily available, to have yeah their own store of like income and value, where they don't just have to store it all in cash that's like inflating at a crazy rate.
I mean, Africa is the perfect example of a country that has not needed a bank to create like a new form of money, because wasn't there the whole thing where they were trading like phone minutes as currency, instead, because they didn't like have like a digital currency, so they were trading minutes of like phone minutes
Yeah.
instead of like actual physical money, which is brilliant, which sort of suggests that like we're all globally, like even regardless of whether like we're some little, techie white kid sitting in San Francisco, telling people that Bitcoin's the future of money, or whether you're some farmer in Zimbabwe, or maybe Zimbabwe's a bad example. You're some farmer in like Ghana or Tunisia, like trying to figure out how to digitize money or find like ways outside of the traditional financial system. It suggests that like these sorts of ways of figuring this, or these sorts of like ways of circumventing the global financial system, are popping up all around the globe. It's not just a whole bunch of like privileged white kids in California basically.
Oh yeah.
But so the one of the things I wanted to get onto actually was the discussion that they had about the environmental impact of Bitcoin. And now Elon had sort of taken a bit of blame or something for the price run up in Bitcoin, leading to the energy consumption going through the roof. And then he had talked about how they were concerned about how much renewable energy was being used for Bitcoin and for cryptocurrency. Now, he said that the Tesla would start to once again accept Bitcoin as a payment method once that they could ensure that renewable energy was above 50% of the power being used for Bitcoin, and that it was on a positive upward trend, and mentioned that the loss of China as like a place for mining and for had sort of helped push this in the right direction. But I had seen estimates that 70% of Bitcoin's energy was produced through renewable energy, which kind of suggests that either those figures are totally wrong, Elon is uncharacteristically ignorant, or there's something else going on. And I wanted to get all of your takes on it.
Yeah, well, I'll go first. If like the whole thing about Bitcoin is like you're kind of incentivized to like have the cheapest electricity possible, and renewables is that, because like if you set up like a solar farm or whatever and like you source your electricity from there, you're either going to get it super cheap, or if you own it, you're going to get it for free. So yeah, like you're kind of incentivized to move towards renewables. The other thing is like people look at Bitcoin and like they say, oh, like where's the energy coming from to like create this, but they don't look at like Visa, MasterCard and stuff like that. They're not getting clean energy to like process their transactions, and that's still like a huge like amount of energy being used to process all that. So yeah, it's just a bit of double standards. So it is.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely also think that it's less about the fact that it consumes energy, because it seems like to me Elon is kind of like taking his angle like Bitcoin's bad because it consumes a lot of energy. It requires like high processing, whereas like that's not necessarily like the fundamental address that should be made. If anything, it should just be like the fact that a majority of the energy that's being supplied for all not coming from renewable sources in general. But he what's funny is he knows a lot about this stuff, because a lot of people might not know, but for a while, and I'm pretty sure actually to this moment, a majority of Tesla's income came from government subsidiaries from them exchanging tax credits from carbon, like carbon tax credits. So they were getting a lot of money, like a majority of their income as a company was coming from the U.S. government.
More than they were making from selling cars, they were getting from selling their tax credits. So they're kind of like pushed towards this renewable debate, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's interesting that
he only pumps, he doesn't dump.
Yeah, that
Yes.
that had to have been the best line of the whole piece.
Yeah. But I mean, it kind of, like he could be lying, but he doesn't feel like the sort of person who will just like go out there and just straight up lie about what he's doing. Aside from what I think he's doing with renewable energy and Bitcoin, but it's interesting to hear him say that he has still holding his Bitcoin, his Ethereum, Dogecoin, and like his Tesla, SpaceX, Boring Company, Starlink stock, and that's it. That's all he has. Which is super interesting that because people had speculated he was like pumping up Bitcoin in order to sell at the top, and then they'd sold it, or when it hit 60K or whatever, and then that had his decision to tweet about how it was environmentally not friendly was then him pushing it back down so they could sell and then buy the dip. But I don't know, it didn't feel like that was what they're doing. What was your sense on that?
Well, I'd say when it comes to his transparency on that, the best part about Bitcoin is we'll never know.
Yeah, he doesn't have to like he can lie and get away with that. So
Exactly, that's the best part about decentralized finance. Like, right, is we'll never be able to validate it. But
I mean, he could show us their accounts.
Yeah,
yeah. If you figured out his Bitcoin address, like his wallet address, I suppose there's a way of like figuring it out. But yeah, it's very hard and time consuming.
Yeah, I mean, he'd pay down how much Doge he has as well. He was like, I have some Doge, and I was like, what's some?
Yeah.
How much is some?
Well, see, I'd be curious to know what his supercomputer is spent all day doing. Have you guys heard about that?
No.
You mentioned it to me before.
Yeah, Dojo, his like he's got one of the most powerful supercomputers in the world. So like I'd be curious to know, like, is that thing just spent all day running AI parameters and like gathering data for some AI program he's working, or is this dude just mining copious amounts of Doge and Bitcoin and just being like, well, I mean, I own a bunch of it, didn't buy it, just mined it, but
I mean, I don't think it's out of the question.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it depends on how serious you think he is about it, because some people say that he's like super serious about making it the future currency of the world, and then there's some people that suggest that he's doing it because it's just hilarious and he's just a meme lord who wants to see the most ridiculous outcome happen. Because I mean, because I wrote a whole piece about this and like did a video on it and everything. It was basically that I think that we're in the clown world where the most ridiculous outcome is the most likely. And his suggestion that his friend had said like the most ironic outcome is the most likely sort of plays into that quite well. And it seems to be what's happening. It's like predict the stupidest thing that happens and that's like what the Simpsons, become famous for predicting stuff, is because they just pick ridiculous things and then they happen. So
And
maybe he's right. Maybe Dogecoin is going to be the future world currency.
my money's on it. My money is 100% on Dogecoin becoming like the global currency in like 50 years. There's no doubt. Like between like 40 to 60 years from now, I think Doge is going to be like the one.
I mean, then there's the question of like, so people always talk about, and Jack Dorsey had talked about it, like on the discussion here, that Bitcoin is that he sees it as the native currency of the internet. And he talked actually quite doe-eyed and nostalgically about his time as a kid and how Bitcoin and the community reminds him of when he was a kid on the internet. Um, but that I get the feeling that everyone seems to be on this trip where it has to be one of them. It has to be Bitcoin, and then everything else is going to die, or it's going to be Dogecoin, and nothing else is going to matter. When we exist in a world in which there are many currencies that already exist, and there are different reasons, mostly geographical, in the case of fiat money, for using different currencies. But the properties of cryptocurrency obviously vary, because you've got like Dogecoin has got much lower transaction fees and gas fees, and you've got Bitcoin is more like digital gold that has like a finite supply. Then you've got like more like privacy coins. You've got there's lots of different attributes. Like, do you guys think that there's more chance of it becoming like that we reach a point where the native currency of the internet is just cryptocurrency broadly, and it's like a blend of all of them, or do you think one will win out eventually, sort of in the way that we kind of talked about the Pareto distribution there earlier? And Omar, I want to know what you think, because you haven't said much.
I think it's going to be broad. Just like you said with currencies, there's multiple different currencies. There's multiple different train of thoughts. Some don't have limits, some do. So I think it's definitely going to be like a very broad.
William?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it would.
Come on, I want some challenge. Like, tell me I'm an idiot. And tell me I'm wrong or something.
No, I mean, it wouldn't be effective if there was just one, right? It would become like, in my opinion, it would become ineffective for what it's trying to do. But it just depends on how we do the layers thing, right? And we're approaching it like there's almost like different sub mods of Bitcoin itself, right? You have like the traditional blockchain, and people move into Lightning. Okay, as technology gets faster, what if there's a fundamental shift in the way that we do computation? Like, what if what if the PC of quantum computers, instead of it just being only commercially available and only like up to like, I think they're like at like 16-bit potential right now for quantum computation, but whatever it is, what if there's a fundamental shift in the way that these computational frameworks are built on? I mean, then it'd be like 13 different versions of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin could end up becoming the king coin, if you will, and just blow everybody else out of the water because of some fundamental shift and because of its distance and time of being in existence, right? So a lot of the things that I'm starting to realize these days, sometimes not even about whether or not you are the biggest one to make it to the game. It's if you're the first one in. It's a race to the first is becoming more and more what it feels like in life, in just in the things that you do in economy and the things that you do. Like, it's a race to first, and that is usually the guy or gal or entity that gets the head start in the race, that makes the difference between being the king of that domain or the victor.
Yeah, definitely. Like, first market mover advantage is a big part to play. Like, you see it in Bitcoin, you see it in Ethereum, like even Cardano. Like, I remember 2017 Cardano was around. It wasn't like as useful as it is now, but like all these here were around and have been since the last bull run. And yeah, they're well established, so it really takes something extraordinary to take over them and replace them. But in terms of like, do I think it's going to be one thing or a broad range? Probably a broad range. I can see stable coins being quite a big thing. Like, I heard recently there, it was either Visa or MasterCard were going to sell transactions in USDC and partnered with Circle. So yeah,
Mm,
I think there's going to be a wide
Whoa.
variety of payment methods.
That's the
yeah.
first time I've
Uh,
heard that. That's kind of big.
Yeah, that was
yeah.
pretty recent. Like that was like a day or two ago. I was reading it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Holy
So
I mean,
cow.
Brad Mills, who is a Bitcoin maximalist who I had interviewed before, he has been very, very, very heavily against any of the stable coins. He's not
Mm.
a fan at all. He says that that's just like it's just propping up these legacy currencies basically, and he sees it as just he basically sees it as pointless and ways for people to try and continue to prop up the dollar when we should just let it collapse. Essentially, I think in his mind.
no, like
Uh,
That's
this is where I don't like agree with that. Their like whole narrative is like, and we kind of talked about it earlier in terms of scarcity. If like something's like scarce like Bitcoin, you're not really going to want to transact in that because you like 10 years time you're going to be like, damn, that like Bitcoin I used to like pay for this, like I could have paid for a house now. Like we need like a stable currency or something that's going to like be within a range and not like be as up and down or mainly up as Bitcoin is. But like yeah, that's where I kind of disagree with the like Bitcoin maximalist narrative that like it's only Bitcoin and that's all that's going to be existing in the future.
so I had this is a crazy idea because you really just kind of stimulated a thought. Would it make more sense? Because it seems like what you just said is very, very true, and that can be manipulated if it is decentralized by anybody that's a large like shareholder. Anybody that has significant amounts, or a group of people that have significant amounts, could really make that price fluctuation significant enough to where it could negatively impact regular economy. Um, so, would it be out of reach for like the United Nations or like some world kind of group to say, we're going to use this system all together, but it is decentralized, but we're all going to start at the same time and we're all going to agree to it at the beginning? Is fair. You see what I'm saying? So it'd be very difficult for somebody to like essentially muscle their way into a position of leverage, an unfair advantage, kind of get everybody at the starting race and then say, hey, I'm going to pull the gun. Everybody, you ready? Everybody's ready. And then you shoot, instead of just like somebody just so happened to be at the track and they like stumbled upon like 100 Bitcoin, like the dominant, like the pizza thing. The guy that got the pizza for like what's worth like, that's somebody just stumbled into the track and started the race. Whereas now everybody's lined up and it's like, hey, this is the gun, the shot heard around the world, everybody, and the whole world's like, okay, we're ready. Boom.
Thankfully, the UN are notorious for always, coming to speedy decisions and like having consensus of every. Like, I think that's a pipe dream. Honestly, that's I think what's much like I think the thing that's more likely to bring stability to Bitcoin as pricing is that now, if Matthew, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong here. So one Bitcoin is 1,000,000 bits, and then inside a bit is 100 satoshis. So is that I'm pretty sure that's correct. So
You
basically,
probably know better than me, to be honest.
so basically, uh, once the once it's more widely used, people are holding it more widely because we're still like really early in adoption here. Like we're sitting here talking as if the innovation is gone. We missed the gold rush, and it can feel a little bit like that when you're in the middle of a bear market. But ultimately, we're still very early on in the adoption of this technology, and we have absolutely no idea where it's going to go. There's some ridiculous advancements in technology that are almost guaranteed to come. You were talking about like just about quantum computing. Like I was reading the other day about how Google are pretty. They're working on some very interesting theories on photonic chips and creating like
Oh
quantum
yeah.
chips for computing, and that kind of suggests that as soon as you've got that, computing power is going to grow exponentially. Elon had mentioned in the talk here that Starlink is going to help increase bandwidth, reduce latency, and just the possibilities for expanding this technology are so infinite that we don't know where it's going to go. But once there's a lot greater adoption of it, that surely that will calm down the price volatility and make it less susceptible for even big players to come in and move the market.
Yeah, I mean we're already seeing like volatility like has dropped like since Bitcoin began like quite drastically. So the more money that gets involved, the less volatile it's gonna be. So
Should be an interesting ride. Now, Cathie Wood made a very interesting point right at the end when they were asking about what they want cryptocurrency to do or what they want Bitcoin to do, and she said that she was looking forward to the convergence of blockchain technology and artificial intelligence. And I know, William and Omar, you will have some seriously far out thoughts about what that could mean. So, yeah, what do you guys reckon?
Will's the AI guy. He's kept me up till like 4 or 5 in the morning, just going off on crazy AI tangents. So hit him.
Yeah. So where cryptocurrencies and AI could potentially meet? I mean, that's such like a imaginary based question. So because like AI can be it's essentially like taking something that learns systems really well with large amounts of data, and then is able to come to new not able to see because we're not able to compute such large volumes of information in a reasonable amount of time. So I would be curious to actually ask somebody who's like a data scientist specializing in cryptocurrency, because that's a lot of information, right? I mean, these blockchain ledgers are like, they're dense, they're thick, and so it would be interesting to see, like, just what an AI set to an interesting set of parameters might come to the conclusion of, or what you might be able to extrapolate from it just being run while these systems are running, and then running live versus past historical data.
What do you think it would be learning? What would it be learning from that? Because I assume you mean you'd take an artificial intelligence and get like some sort of machine learning algorithm and getting it to watch basically a node or some sort of cryptocurrency within certain parameters. Like, what do you think it would learn?
See, and that would be what company and what agency, what individual is asking that question. That's kind of where you would deduce like what the intention would be. So like if let's say it's a fund. So let's make it exciting. A hedge fund might run AI to study maybe the time of day that transactions are occurring. Maybe essentially you're just pattern recognition. So they're looking for patterns throughout what's been going on, and then trying to, link what they're seeing data-wise to going on, that's reoccurring phenomenon in human society and in human culture, to capitalize on it. That's what I would do if I was a hedge fund. I'm looking at what's going on in human behavior regularly, that's something that I know happens and has some kind of effect on the way that we interact as a society with financial infrastructure, and then abstract that and look at what am I directly seeing, because that's the best part about these cryptos, right? It's like it's all there, and that's all of it. So you can take that and then try to see what comes about. Just essentially, you're in uncharted territory. The best part about all this is you're taking two mega frontier areas, like fusing them together into a whole new subcategory of computer science, right? That's like, I would argue that should be its own niche within AI, AI that studies live blockchain systems and tries to interpret the data or draw to any kind of, competitive market advantage conclusions. Incubator that just specializes in that, and they probably grow to be a Fortune 500 company because of the fact that they're dealing with finance.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that Planet Money, the NPR podcast, they ran like a trading algorithm that based itself off of Trump's tweets back when he was still allowed to tweet. And they were trying to like point like any company that he mentioned. It would like analyze whether it was like a negative or a positive sentiment, and then it would trade based on those on like the analysis of said tweets. But if you were going to get real spacey about it and like put like a really powerful machine learning algorithm or artificial intelligence on it, you could watch not just like one Twitter account. You could watch the whole of Twitter, and you could spot who were the early movers, and it would maybe like because obviously there's the obvious ones like Elon tweets something happens in crypto, right?
Exactly.
But you could find people who were like way more undiscovered. You like some person who's just like really like switched on and just happens to like say something to his 400 followers, but like 6 months before anything happens, and he's can like pretty consistently right, and just you could find loads of really like influential like early movers that maybe didn't even themselves know that they
that
were
they were in
like
the situation that they're in. Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
That would be quite fascinating, right? Being able to predict the first to the race, the first to break before even they realize they're in that situation. That would be that'd be like trying to nail down like the entire spirit of like avant-garde body that is like some kind of industry setter, or sees the paradigm shift while it's occurring and is a frontiersman in that. That would be a very powerful tool for sure.
But maybe it's not even possible because like there's always that like there's the scene in Jurassic Park with the chaos and the water and the drops in the hand. There's like there's and humans are wrong, but maybe it would just be Matthew's Twitter. Like every time he says something about cryptocurrency, like a month later, I'm like, oh damn, he was right. And,
Yep. But what did you guys think about the host's super like evil? What's the guy from Simpsons?
Mr. Burns.
Oh yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Burns.
he got the guy that hosted Elon and the crew. He got a Mr. Burns look when Elon put Jack Dorsey on the spot for Twitter accepting crypto when advertisers are paying.
Release the hounds.
Right. Yeah. And then Jack Dorsey was like, oh, I don't know. What does the board think about this?
That guy that was hosting, he's like to do with Square, isn't he? Like the company that Jack Dorsey runs. So
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they've already discussed this, and that's why he was so keen to see what Jack had to say.
Yeah, well, maybe Jack was like, no, we're not doing it. And then he was like, no, come on. People will love it. And Jack's like, no. There's not enough public approval or it'll not work. And then this guy's just using this as an opportunity to get the idea out there, to get more people to bug him about it.
Oh, that's awesome. And
I
Elon
also
didn't let
find
it die.
Yeah. No,
He didn't let it
but
die either.
like, Elon's guilty of like he's sitting there pushing Jack Dorsey to do it, and he's guilty of the fucking same thing. Oh, I don't even know actually. Am I allowed to swear on SNN? Like you can beep it out later. He's guilty of the same thing in that they're like Tesla aren't accepting Bitcoin at the minute. So like why was he not accepting Bitcoin? But he's very keen for Jack Dorsey to do it. It seems a little hypocritical.
Oh yeah. No, it was funny. He didn't let it die. He was like, "So are you gonna do it, Jack?" And everybody was like, "Wah!"
Yeah, he really put him on the spot.
Yeah.
And I mean, like Jack Dorsey actually mentioned something really interesting when they were talking about that. He talked about how they want to have some sort of payment method that creates and holds value within Twitter. That means that they're not as beholden to advertisers. And this is kind of, I think, the same thing that Odyssey.com are doing. The YouTube, I'll not say alternative. Jeremy Kaufman, the CEO. He likes to call them the YouTube successor. Because it's inevitable. Yeah. But they do essentially the same thing. So by interacting, watching videos, whatnot on their platform, you earn like a little bit of their like cryptocurrency, the LBC tokens, and then you can use that to tip creators. But you can also, if you're a creator or you're just someone who watches like an obscene amount of content, you can save that money in your wallet on like Odyssey.com. but then you can withdraw it and use it to be exchanged for Bitcoin, or well,
Oh
yeah, any
wow.
cryptocurrency. So it's but the incentive is, especially for creators, is that when people tip your videos, it pushes them up the search algorithm, and if you cash out the cryptocurrency that you get, you don't get pushed as far up in the algorithm. So it like incentivizes you to basically hold on to the crypto, at least some of it, within the network, and it like ensures that it's always like there's always some liquidity there and there's always some people holding it. Um, which is like I find super interesting. I guess that's the point that Jack Dorsey's trying to make. But then at the same point, like Elon was pointing out to him that it has to be spendable in the real world. Like if you're offering the currency,
It has
you
to
have to
represent
have it.
goods and services.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you think it's possible for a social network that's not just like a video platform to use that same sort of model?
I think so. Well, that actually just prompted, if I may ask Matthew a question. I think what if the future of cryptos, and I might have just realized something that's been known amongst crypto enthusiasts for a long time. So please, if I just like am a doe, just like run me over. But um, are cryptos moving toward like so Cardanos, the Cardanos, the Ethereums, the Bitcoins? Is it going to just become an umbrella system where even like down to like larger companies have their own crypto that represents the market cap of that company itself, and then that can be exchanged with a crypto that represents the market cap of that particular industry, which then can be exchanged for a crypto that represents all of the nature of the world's economy? Is it going to come down to where, that's how many cryptos we might have, but the aggregate and the way that the hierarchy is established is in such a way that it does actually, in a really good way, represent what's.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like I don't know if it'll be as broad as that, like every company having their own crypto, but definitely the big ones I can see like trying to push that. Like I can't remember, is it Facebook or like working on developing something potentially like,
Mm.
yeah, like Facebook, Amazon, those big companies I can see like definitely trying to like move
Maybe the
towards
Fortune
that. Like
5, maybe the S&P 500 kind of type
yeah,
deal, where it's an like, because that's an aggregate in a system we currently have, right? So I'd be to
Mm.
see if that's the
Mm.
direction we go, is a hierarchy of just. It almost seems like we are more what cryptos is just a significantly higher step forward in transparency of the actual market value of industries in real time. I don't think we've ever been able to do that, right? Not in real time. So I think maybe that's where we're headed with it. I don't know. I think that would be very useful in doing what Jack Dorsey was saying, which is removing barriers of humanity being able to not be distracted and do what we do best, which is create and innovate. Not dealing
Mm.
with, problems with infrastructure, problems with the kind of the lagginess of our current world economy to get things done, to get basic values or basic needs met for people so that they're not distracted with meeting baser hierarchical needs, like psychologically, so that they can go out and be their best version of themselves.
yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. Like something that I kind of like thought about for a while was like, what if like shares, for example, like this is something you guys like with the GME and like stuff like that. Like, what if shares were like on the blockchain? Like, you can't like naked short then. Like, you
Ah,
can't do
yes,
all
yes,
you can't do
yeah,
all these like illegal nefarious activities. Well, not illegal,
uh-huh,
but like definitely they've some malice behind it. So
for
Mm.
yeah,
sure.
the transparency of it all would definitely benefit something like that. Will we move towards that? Because like these big players aren't going to want that. Like let's be honest, they don't want like us being able to see everything that's going
What's going
on
on?
so
Yeah, no, of
clearly.
No.
course.
No, well, I
But
mean,
it's
most of their
interesting.
profit model is, yeah, most of their profit model is built on the sort of being able to operate in the shadows. Um, but like, there's two things I want to say there actually. Is like, first of all, like Ryan Cohen and GameStop have literally already discussed
Done
and
this,
laid out
yeah.
plans about how to do this. Like they are heroes. They were just like, oh, so your exchange, your DTCC is screwing with us. Well, well, we'll just make our own exchange with blackjack and hookers and blockchain.
Yep.
And which is awesome.
Yeah.
But you know what? So what? Yeah, watch this space. But the going back to the point you were making about every company having their own cryptocurrency, I am skeptical as to whether that would work because, again, as Elon Musk points out, it's like you have to be creating value, right? And there has to be like a utility to the coin outside of simply just being the coin, or else it's just the digital dollar, or like it's not because like right on Odyssey, for example, the value it's providing is pushing like people's videos further up the search algorithm and being more visible, which then gets them more views, more clicks, more eyeballs, and like that's providing like value to them. But
Yeah.
if you
Well,
have just like
Josh,
yeah, an
what I'm
S&P
trying to,
Fortune 500, yeah.
no, what I'm trying to say is like, this would actually integrity of the nature of what companies do and are providing to the world significantly more honest. Meaning, like, if your company doesn't offer a service that people are not directly exchanging for, then your company ceases to exist because of the nature of cryptos being adopted so universally. So what I mean is like it actually integrity checks companies like hedge funds who technically don't really offer a value or service to the general population, right? So a lot of people wouldn't be spending money or investing into these systems. It would just stay to like, companies that are offering direct value to the consumers. And then of course you would have the fact that it's a world economy, so you'd be able to like access, consumer goods that are being produced in New York for yourself here, whether that's in the form of a digital good or service. But that's kind of more what I'm seeing it maybe going towards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, I do. I mean, the thing that I think would be super, super interesting is that if you were able to get like a ETF style thing for cryptocurrency, where you wouldn't just be like buying like one cryptocurrency, you would be buying like a combination, like a blend of cryptocurrency. So say like one fund would have like say Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge, Cardano, or like the top five. I don't know what I don't know what the fifth largest one is off the top of my head. But then you would say you called that ETF like I don't know, like Blue Bottle or something. I just got Blue Bottle in front of me. But yeah, you just call it whatever, and then you can like trade the token of said like blend of cryptocurrency. So you wouldn't just be betting on say one crypto. You would be betting on a specific blend, but you wouldn't need to go out and buy all those different cryptocurrencies by itself. You would just need to buy, say, the token that represents a tiny portion of like the fund
Of
that
each one of
has
those.
Yeah, which is a super interesting concept that has just occurred to me, and someone has also probably already thought of this.
Yeah, Matthew, are there any crypto ETFs out there?
There's ETFs. I think they're like in Canada and stuff, but like, the big move at the minute is trying to get one in the US, and I'm pretty sure like Grayscale are one of the main ones working on that at the minute. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that the SEC has higher up on their list of things to do at the minute, but yeah, I can see an ETF coming in the next like year or two for cryptos, and that'll definitely like be a big boost for it. But it's interesting that you've like mentioned tokenizing the ETF and then trading that. It would maybe like reduce the volatility and be a bit more stable then.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. Matthew, I'm aware you have to run off here at 10, which is our time, which it basically is. So we
We'll call it here, gents. This is a good good session. So everybody, thanks for popping on to episode 2 of SNN Live. Again, we were joined by Josh Hamilton and Matthew English, Omar Sharif. Be on the lookout, guys. Make sure you hit the. Josh is dropping a new book. There's a GoFundMe, Indiegogo for it. Josh, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Basically, right now we, for anyone that hasn't been paying attention or living under a rock, the GameStop saga is still ongoing, and there's a whole bunch of mainstream journalists who are attempting to write a book about it. I've seen at least 3, and all of them, without exception, are focusing solely on what has happened in January. And I am afraid that they are going to attempt to poorly define this movement and to just do a really bad job generally of it. And I am hoping by crowdfunding my book to get out in front of them and tell the real story that's been happening, and that is the community that has evolved around it. So if you want to know more, yeah, links are in the description below.
Nice. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, peace out.
Bye.